So glad that you're here with us today. Please join me in prayer. Higher power, Spirit of all that is, we are so thankful as the world begins to blossom and open again. As June crests upon us tomorrow, we rejoice in knowing that you are here, that we have purpose, and that we are open and excited to go into the world safely for all. And so it is.
And I'd like to thank Linda for inviting me to be a part of this celebration today and to talk about forgiveness. And I'm going to talk about and share about forgiveness in terms about forgiveness in the grieving, in the loss process. You know, all of us have experienced loss. That's just part of the human condition. That's part of what we experience. And oftentimes when we talk about loss, we're thinking about losing or the death of someone very important in our lives. But it can also be the loss of something just very important in our lives as well. A loss of a love relationship, or like a divorce, or the loss of a job, the loss of health. As some of us are experiencing a disease process. So there's all different forms and fashions of loss. And one might ask, why would I have to forgive anything or anyone in losing? And well, the truth is that things come up. And what was identified by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross about the stages of loss is that we go through a stage of denial, a stage of anger, a stage of bargaining, and then depression, and then acceptance. And when I say and then, they really kind of interchange back and forth. But what happens in each stage and what happens in each form is that sometimes unresolved things come up. And those are unresolved things are the things that generally we need to forgive. We need to forgive them not so much because of what others have done to us, but because in all sanity, in all grace, in all love for ourselves, we need to forgive them for ourselves. We need to be able to let go of the power that they have in our lives. Now, the process is different for each and every individual. And there are common things that we share, and I'm really not going to go into how to forgive necessarily, but I will share an experience that I had because I know that forgiveness can sometimes be over the long haul, may take a while, and yet it can also be miraculous. And I also want to point out that forgiveness doesn't necessarily say or mean that we're all right with it, that we're okay that things happened the way they happened. You know, sometimes really terrible things happen in our lives, and so we're not okay with that. But we're willing to let go of the power that these experiences have in our life. And I'm reflecting back on my relationship with my stepfather, which wasn't a pretty one. He was, by all appearances, a very good and decent man. And so I will not ever take that away from him. I won't take that away from him. However, the relationship I had with him was one of pretty much rejection. And so I, being the empath that I am, I experience fully everything in life, and I experienced that rejection very fully. And it was an assault to my self-esteem, and I grew up feeling that I wasn't worthy. And it wasn't just my stepfather. There was a lot of things in life that said, Robert, you're not worthy. And I bought it. I bought it at the time. But in my healing process, as I was coming out of that dense fog, I realized that I wanted to let go of the power that my relationship with my stepfather had over me. Because it just kind of brought me down. It brought me down a lot. And I remember one Father's Day in particular, a minister gave a message about his father and about his father not being there. And oh man, it was pressing every button. It was pressing every button imaginable. And I walked out of that church service not feeling good about myself because I was angry. I had so much anger at my stepfather. And I found myself just walking around my neighborhood and I think I even said out loud, although I'm not sure, I know I thought it, I want to let go of this. Please help me let go of this. And in that instant, it was gone. And it has never, ever come back. And I've been able to re-examine this relationship with my stepfather, not making it pretty, but understanding him and giving him lots of compassion and love. And knowing that I don't want to act in the ways that he acted at the time. So I know that forgiveness can be miraculous. It can be instantaneous. But for the most part, I have to work at it. And I encourage you, as your issues of forgiveness that come up, to look at them and say, hey, I don't want this to have power over me anymore. And be willing, have an open heart to let go of that power and to claim your power. Claim the power of the universe, to claim the power of your higher power in you, working through you in acts of forgiveness. Thank you.
So a few months ago, and it may have been last year, I don't track time real well, even when time is doing the usual stuff, let alone what it's been up to lately. One of my kids told me, Mom, if I was looking for a church, I would find a church. And that absolutely stunned me. Who on earth would not be looking for a church? But I can remember a time before I was looking for a church, and honestly, it was because I didn't know what a church was and what it had to offer and what the community and the support were in a church and a church family. I could really say the same thing about God, or at least a relationship to God, or even the ability to acknowledge that something like God or a higher power could even exist. I find that nowadays I talk about God all the time. I learn about God, I read about God, I'm in the Bible, I'm studying the Bible, and stop and ask, who am I? And how did I get from where I've been to where I am today? And of course, the whole topic that we're working on, the spiritual principle that we're learning and teaching and receiving, is forgive. And that's my story. That's how I got here. One of the big reasons I personally didn't want to believe in a higher power was that it meant I wasn't it. And there was a time when I was pretty sure I was. I tried to control everything all the way across the board. One of the ways that I used to use that control was by playing the victim. I had a pretty hard-knock life, to quote another song, and I had a really excellent story. I had the kind of story that would make people cry and pull out their wallets and their pocketbooks and give me money and make everything okay and want to protect me. And that was pretty sweet. That was a pretty sweet deal. Up until it was time to step out of the darkness and away from my disease and into health and wholeness. Up until the time I needed to release my illusion of being all-powerful and all-controlling and recognize that I'm really just a little grain of sand in the allness that is. That was really hard for me. For me, making that acknowledgement was pretty scary. And the idea that there was a higher power that would want anything to do with me was terrifying. I couldn't let that happen. I couldn't accept it until I was ready to let myself be forgiven. I thought I had done all the work on forgiveness. I'd made peace with the fact that, what happened to me, happens to a lot of people. We live through it. We find a way. We get over it. Not diminishing it. It's a whole level of hell. But if I stay there, I never come out of it. I never move forward. I never go on. I was able to do the forgiveness work. And honestly, for me, I was able to forgive you when the stuff that I had done was worse than anything you ever thought of. When I came face to face with the reality that if you had done to me what I'd been doing to me, you'd so be in jail. Nobody would let you out. That would be it. That would be over for you. They'd have you on attempted murder. But because I was doing it to me and I lived through it, there was nobody else to blame. There was nobody else to look at. It was all about me. And because I knew what I had done, it was so easy to forgive you. You didn't think the thoughts that I had thought or commit the crimes that I had committed. You had never walked away from the people who loved you. You had never walked away from the people who loved me. I did that. So how did I let anyone forgive me? Well, it's a process. It didn't happen overnight. For me, it came about when I realized that my higher power doesn't see anything wrong with me. Looks at me and doesn't see a blemish, doesn't see a bubble, doesn't see a monster. That it's not there, that it's not real. That when I turned myself and my will over to my higher power, all that other stuff dissipated the same way the darkness disappears when you turn on a light. It doesn't leave a residue or bumps or virus or any contagion behind. It's just gone. The light's on, the darkness is gone, there's nothing there. That's forgiveness. It's just not there anymore. I couldn't let anyone forgive me because I didn't believe I was worthy of forgiveness. I really hope as I'm saying that there's nobody out there that can relate to that, but I think I know better. I think so many of us live with what we've done, and oftentimes it isn't even stuff we've done. It's stuff we know we were willing to do. And we're holding that against ourselves, right? Like, oh yeah, I'm so awful, I was willing to do this, without even recognizing that you wouldn't do it today. One of the first times I stepped into a church, I heard a minister do a talk on a lesson on forgiveness. And I tell you what, it was this lesson that told me I had found my church and my church family. But he said, forgiveness doesn't even exist. It's not a thing. It's impossible. It's like this grand illusion that we're all chasing, right? Oh, forgiveness, forgiveness. And his proof in that was this. Whatever you've done, if you would not do it today, then you're not that person. And you can't be forgiven for it. You have evolved beyond and above whoever you used to be that was capable of doing the things that you're still holding against you. And in reality, it was doing those things and being that person that gave you the strength to change, that gave you the ability to stand up and say, no, I'm not going to be that person anymore. So how do you take that away? And if it could just be erased and taken away from you, who would you be today? And what on earth would you be doing? The reality is you aren't that person. You've been forgiven. You need to let it go and be done with it. And I'm not saying pretend it didn't happen. I think each and every one of us knows that we can use our stories. We can use the path that we took to illumine, to light up the world for the people who are looking for that path, for the people who are trying to come out of the hell that we have just walked through. So don't forget what you've done, but don't beat yourself up for it. And don't beat up the people around you. You really need to let your family forgive you, and you need to forgive them too. And here's a really big key on the whole forgiveness principle. Use your words, right? We do it inside and think, oh, that's been forgiven. But these are the words that we need to speak. These are the words that heal the world. Words like, I'm sorry, how can I make it right? I did this, how can I make it better? I love you. I don't care what happened before. I forgive you, and I am willing to allow you to forgive me. Please join me in prayer. Higher power, we stand stronger today because of the days when we couldn't stand at all. We move farther along the road today because we no longer need to be afraid. We have been tested and we have proven we are ready. We are worthy, and we claim this so right now.
I invite you at this time to find a comfortable place to either sit, kneel, lie down, but to make yourself comfortable as we go into our meditation. Take in a deep breath. Think of it as a cleansing breath. Let go of all the thoughts, all the busyness you have. Sink into that place and breathe in peace. And bring out calm. Let that calmness come out of us. Take another deep breath, a little deeper, a little quieter, a little more in sinking into that groundedness. And bring out peace. And while we're in this place, let's focus on three phrases. Three phrases that can mean freedom. That can mean freedom for yourself, for the prisoner that you've kept yourself. As I ask these questions, sink into that place that place that brings you the answers. Can I forgive myself for not understanding myself, for not understanding those around me? Can I forgive myself for making mistakes? Think about mistakes. Can I forgive those? Can I forgive myself for the hurt and the pain that I have caused others and myself? These questions can arouse so many feelings within yourself. Can you be with them? Can you allow them? If they are too painful, I invite you to step back from them and breathe in. Breathe into that place where you and your higher power are one. And allow that gentleness of your higher power to hold your hand as you go through this quiet time. As we bring our focus back to our surroundings, take with you this day that forgiveness of yourself takes you on the road to freedom, to continue your journey into wholeness, to continue that journey that you began to change your life. Relax into that freedom. Amen.
Thank you for joining us, and let's stay connected and grow in spirit. We are on Facebook. Search for Unity Church of El Cajon and follow us and like our posts. You can reach us on YouTube at Unity Church of El Cajon. Please subscribe to our channel, watch our videos, and leave comments which can help us improve. We are on the web at unityofelcajon.org. Email or call our church office to receive our weekly newsletters, which lists all of our activities and opportunities to learn and grow together.